Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've ever tried to edit a thumbnail on your phone and ended up with, well, a pixelated mess, today is absolutely for you. We are unpacking a masterclass on a skill literally every content creator needs, designing high-definition professional YouTube thumbnails. And here's the kicker, folks. We are going to learn how to do all of this using just your mobile phone. We're going to break down the exact workflow from our source material to create stunning PC-quality visuals right from the palm of your hand. Okay, let's dive into this. Because that is the big question, right? We so often think we need expensive, complicated desktop software to get those crisp, engaging thumbnails. But based on our source material, not only is it entirely possible to get PC-quality results on your mobile phone, but you can actually do it in just a few minutes using a free app called Pixel Lab. Plus, our source provides an absolutely incredible free resource pack filled with over 100 essential elements like arrows, graphs, and icons to really speed up your process. It's a total game changer for mobile editing. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Setting up the canvas, 2. Creating the background, 3. Adding the main subject, 4. Typography and layering, 5. Adding 3D effects, and 6. Finalizing and exporting. We are following the source's exact workflow to build a highly clickable Mark Zuckerberg thumbnail example, going layer by layer from a completely blank slate. All right, let's jump right into section 1, setting up the canvas, creating the foundation. Because obviously, every great design starts with getting your workspace sized correctly. When you first open up Pixel Lab, you'll see a default square shape and a default text element floating there. The source's first pro tip: delete that default text element right away so you have a truly blank canvas. From there, setting the right dimensions is incredibly easy. Just tap the 3 dots menu at the top right, select image size, and from the preset menu, simply choose YouTube thumbnail. This automatically sets your canvas to the standard 1280 by 720 pixels. But actually, here is a fascinating takeaway from our source. If you want even higher definition, you aren't locked into that preset at all. You can manually input your width as 1920 and your height as 1080. This gives you a gorgeous custom full HD canvas to work on. Once you hit OK, your foundation is perfectly set. Moving right along to section 2, creating the background, gradients, and overlays. This is where we really start building visual interest. Now, a basic solid color background, it can look a little boring, right? To create a pro-level background, our source blends 2 main elements. First, they head to the bottom menu, click the color option, and create a custom diagonal gradient using pink and blue. Next, they import an image from their gallery, in this case a photo of a mobile screen with apps downloaded from Pexels. By dropping the opacity of that mobile screen image all the way down to 25% and slightly lowering the brightness of the gradient underneath, they create a rich, textured backdrop that feels super professional, rather than just a flat, amateurish, solid color. So, the absolutely crucial point the source emphasizes here is this: lock your layers. Once that background looks perfect, head up to the Layers option at the top and lock the image layer. This is an essential workflow habit because honestly, there is nothing worse than perfectly placing a background only to accidentally swipe it out of frame later as you try to add new elements. Okay, now that the background is locked safely in place, let's move to section 3, adding the main subject, importing and adjusting Mark Zuckerberg. In our example, we are bringing in a clean, high-quality PNG cutout of Mark Zuckerberg. The source notes you can easily grab a good image on Wikipedia and just use a quick cutout tool to cleanly remove the background before importing it into Pixel Lab. Once your subject is imported, you've got to place it. But instead of squinting and trying to guess where the center is manually, the source highlights Pixel Lab's relative position tool down in the bottom menu. By tapping this, you can automatically and perfectly align your element horizontally in the exact center of the canvas. It completely removes the guesswork and saves you precious time on that tiny mobile screen. But just placing the subject isn't quite enough. We need him to really pop off the screen. To do this, our source styled in some very specific color filters right next to the positioning tool. They bumped the brightness to 21 and the contrast to 9 to make the image incredibly vivid. Then, to really define the subject against that textured background, they enabled a stroke with a width of exactly 7. Next up, they enable the drop shadow option. Setting the blur radius to exactly 25 brilliantly creates this incredible depth and separation from the background. It gives the whole composition that 3-dimensional feel that professional thumbnails always seem to have. And remember our golden rule: once he looks good, lock this layer too. On to Section 4, Typography and Layering, Making Text Pop. Let's look at how to make your words truly stand out. We need to add the phrase breakdown editing to our thumbnail, but instead of typing it all into one giant text box, a massive pro tip from the source is to create two separate text boxes, one for the word breakdown and another for the word editing. This gives us complete, independent control to style, size, and place them exactly how we want. Let's walk through this precise styling sequence together. First, apply a heavy, bold Montserrat font to the word breakdown. Second, copy that text box, change the word to editing, and apply a contrasting thin Arial font. Third, use the Style tool to italicize editing and place it neatly over the word breakdown. Now for the magic touch, go to your Layers menu and physically drag the breakdown text layer so it sits slightly behind Mark Zuckerberg's head layer. This advanced layering technique integrates the text directly into the scene, making the whole design look incredibly dynamic and deep. Once that's done, you guessed it, lock those text layers. Next is Section 5, Adding 3D Effects, Giving Logos Depth. Because simply slapping a flat logo on the screen, yeah, that looks a little amateur, so let's give it some life. To achieve this, the source uses Pixel Labs 3D tools on application logos, like the Premiere Pro icon. First, you enable 3D Rotate. The exact settings they used are 30 degrees on the x-axis and 34 degrees on the y-axis. Then enable 3D Shape to add depth, setting that depth to 6. But what's really brilliant about the source's workflow here is the color choice for the 3D shadow. Instead of a generic, boring black, they pull a light purple shade directly from the Premiere Pro logo itself. It's a tiny detail, but it makes a massive difference, tying the whole 3D effect together seamlessly. They then drag this logo layer behind the subject layer, just like we did with the text, to really ground it in the image. We are in the home stretch now. Section 6, Finalizing and Exporting, the final touches. The core design is fantastic, but we need to add that last little bit of polish. To give the background a bit more energy, the source brings in a PNG of action lines from that free pack we mentioned earlier. But obviously, you don't want these bold lines covering up all your hard work. So the source uses the toBack command to send this overlay underneath absolutely every other layer. Then they drop its opacity down to exactly 50%. It acts as this really subtle, energetic texture that beautifully ties the whole composition together. Okay, our design is ready. But hold on, before you rush to export your image, save your project file inside Pixel first. Because trust me, noticing a typo after you've exported your final image and closed the app is a universal creator nightmare. Saving the project file means you can jump right back in and make edits easily without starting the whole shebang from scratch. Finally, let's export this high-definition file. Tap the three dots menu at the top and select Export Image. Make sure the format is set to PNG for the absolute best possible quality. For dimensions, leave it on custom, because remember, we manually set it to Full HD at the very beginning, so keeping it on custom ensures it retains that pristine 1920 by 80 resolution. Then just tap Save to Gallery. And just like that, you have a phenomenal PC-quality thumbnail made entirely on a mobile phone. Well, we've successfully covered the mechanical steps to build a fantastic design. But knowing how to design it is really only half the battle. Our source leaves us with this provocative thought. How do you actually find a killer thumbnail concept in the first place? To get those sky-high click-through rates, you need to understand brand consistency, the different types of thumbnails, and the core psychology of a good design that makes people want to click. The source actually recommends checking out their separate deep dive specifically on those conceptual strategies. But for now, you have all the technical skills you need to start building incredible professional designs right on your phone. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep creating, and I'll see you next time.